Hello everyone! Recently we had some fun practicing some paint pouring techniques in miniature. We're going to make 3 different projects. The first one we're doing is a little decorative tray. We made this one a couple of years ago. It's just an appetizer tray from the Dollar Tree. So you see it's acrylic, so we're going to use that, this clear acrylic tray, and then we're going to use this tile. It's just an old coaster, a tile coaster that I covered in some wax paper to protect it. The first step is to rough up our acrylic tray a little bit. I want my paint to stick, so I'm just using a sanding block. I'm sanding the outside and inside with a fine-grained sanding block. And then I'm going to clean it off. I use some isopropyl alcohol, just some rubbing alcohol, on a cotton gauze to clean off, just to make it nice and ready for some paint to stick to it. Hopefully it helps it adhere. I'm going to put my tray on my tile and add some pouring medium to some acrylics. I use the Dollar Tree acrylics because they're already a little thinner. Having it with the pouring medium and a thinner acrylic, it's really going to help it flow. So we chose yellow, pink, and blue for this project. And then it's just a matter of pouring some on, layering it as you see. I'm sure you guys have all watched some paint pouring videos. Once you have the paint layered up how you like it, pretty heavy, it's time to give that Lazy Susan a spin. This is going to help start the flowing process. This tray is too little to really pick up and tilt, so I'm going to spin it, and then I grabbed a straw and I'm just going to blow it out the rest of the way. This actually helps to give a lot of really fun patterns, kind of a marbleized pattern, helps to get some of those cells kind of going. And here it is all done, ready to dry. I'm going to let the acrylic dry all the way, and then the next day I'm going to paint the inside of it. I chose to paint the inside of this one blue. You can see that unfortunately my sanding was not good enough. I kind of thought for a minute I might let this coat dry and then add some Mr. Super Clear kind of to prime over it and help it hopefully stick better. But I was actually pleasantly surprised that after the first coat dried, it wasn't as bad as I thought. So I just put a second coat of this dark blue over the top. And there it is. And then we're going to use what's called unicorn spit. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. You can get it at like Michael's and places like that. It's kind of like a gel stain with little fine particles of glitter. My daughter really wanted this to be glitzy. So we poured some of our unicorn spit. You're supposed to follow it up with an oil finish if you're going to seal it, but this is so small. I just used some Mod Podge over it. It didn't really seem to reactivate it, so it stuck pretty well. Wow, I really do love the effect of this. It gives it almost a holographic look when you kind of shine it in a light. So it looks really, really nice. After this was all done, I just covered the entire thing with a layer of high gloss Mod Podge just to seal it all. And like I said, it didn't seem to affect the unicorn spit, so I was pretty happy. Here we filled it with our favorite minis on a coffee table ready for display. On to the next project, just a simple painting. This is a little canvas that I picked up at Dollar Tree. It came with a stand, with an easel stand. So right now we took it off of that, and then we're just going to do the same pouring technique. We use the same colors actually, we just added in some green to add a little extra flair to this. And it's just the same as before, only with this one you can spin it and then you'll see me kind of pick it up and tilt it to help with some of the flow as well. But again, I used equal parts pouring medium and the acrylic to just kind of make it nice and thin so it could flow easily. On this project, I also decided I wanted to make sure it flowed over the edges, so I added some extra paint along the corners just to kind of make sure that it was going to cover the entire canvas. I didn't want to take any chances with that, and I wanted it to be a little darker on the edges as well. So I went ahead and put that in there. It kind of turned out darker. It really covered up with that yellow. It really covers everything, but it looks really nice at the end. So here you can see I'm picking up and tilting it to get it started instead of just spinning it. And then I'm going to grab my straw and use the same technique as before to really blow it out, thin it out, kind of move that paint where I want it. With the straw, you're able to really direct the paint in the direction that you're wanting. So it's all done. I'm gonna let this sit and dry. And then when it was dry, I wasn't 100% sure on the edges. You could leave it as a canvas like this. I decided to make a quick frame out of some jumbo craft sticks, just to kind of give it a finished look at the end. I do love that marbled effect. So I just cut my craft sticks to size, just a simple square, and then hot glued those on. I'm pressing it down pretty hard because that canvas is a little bit loose, and I just want to make sure that it sticks nice and tight and maintains that nice sharp square. It looks really cute when it's all done. And then I tested it, and it does still fit on the little easel that the canvas came with. So you can choose to hang it on your doll's wall, or they can display it on the little easel as well. Hitting pause here for a second. So I should have just done these out of paperboard. Would have been a lot easier, and maybe some paper. Instead, I chose to try clay, and they turned out okay, but just know it would be a lot easier if I had chosen to do paperboard. So I would highly recommend, if you do this next project, you do that. So we're starting out with these little mugs, and I love how Froggy Stuff makes mugs out of toothpaste caps. That's really the exact shape that I'm looking for these mugs. My paper clip was not bending wide enough to fit over my Ken doll's hand, so I thought I was going to be smart and bend it over the top and the bottom of the toothpaste cap itself. That works. However, when I go in later to add my decoration, it really makes it a lot harder because I had to kind of piece things together. So again, if I had done this where I had a template, that would have been the easiest thing. But even if I did this way, I could have pre-drilled my holes, wrapped it, and then gone back in and put my little handle on. But anyway, and I'm just going to hold it in place on the top and the bottom with some hot glue. And it works out fine. However, again, that handle, it kind of goes to the top lip of the mug, and I wasn't really liking the look of that. Tried some things later on to change that, and none of that was working. So I wound up keeping it how it is. Here I'm testing that it does still sit flat with that paper clip underneath, and it does. And it does also fit over my Ken doll's hand. So here we go, trying to make these clay plates. I tried a few times before I realized that I probably should lay the plates down upside down and put it over the top, which ultimately worked the best. I wasn't able to get to kind of sandwich it together and get it to stay and then peel off nicely this first time. So here you can watch me struggle. The other thing about using these is that they're really fine. When it's dry, I use air dry clay, and so when it is completely dry, I was really careful trying to sand them to make them smooth and work with them. It would have, again, just been easier to have just used paperboard. I was just being lazy and I didn't want to cut circles, and so I wound up making more work for myself. I guess you live and you learn. But here you can see me kind of struggle. Plus my clay just was drying out. I had a cat trying to help. It was just a mess. But they turned out actually okay in the end. So here you can see I'm kind of struggling to get that off, and it was just not working. So I tore up a little piece of wax paper to help me release the clay on the next try. And then, like I said, I finally figured out that I should have just had them flipped over and molded from the upside down position in the first place. So finally got it to work. I made only 2 cups, 2 plates, and 2 saucers. Just a nice little tea set. And I'm trimming the excess away. There's that plate underneath this time. And I'm going to trim the excess away with this X-Acto knife. And oops, there went my plate. Here we go. So this is gonna, the top plate kind of sandwich, and this is gonna form a little bit of an indent on the bottom to help it be kind of flat at the bottom, but it's also helping me hold it in place so I can get extra clay off. And once I did that, it was just kind of a quick smooth with some water on my finger just to make the plate extra smooth. I'm really only worried about the top surface of the plate being smooth, and you'll see why in just a couple of minutes here. So I was able to do that and then peel them off, and I did let them dry on top of the plates just to hold their shape. So what I'm going to do here, you can see I just used pouring medium again from Michael's, and I got all of my paints ready. This is going to be a little different. I want it to be pretty thick. So I covered another tile coaster in wax paper, and then I'm going to take my black. I want a solid base underneath, and I'm putting this directly onto the tile. I'm going to make an acrylic skin. So I'm going to kind of butter that on there to make sure that once I get all of my paint poured, there's not going to be any space that bleeds through. It's going to have a solid back covering, and again, I want it fairly thick. Not too thick because I'm making plates, but I don't want any, I want to be able to peel this off of the wax paper easily when I'm all done without ripping it. So once I butter that on there, it's going to be basically just the same process, adding my paints where I want it, giving it a spin, using my straw to blow on it, and then this actually took 2 full days to dry all the way. It has to be completely dry before you even attempt to pull it off of the wax paper. So give yourself some time if you're going to do this project. I don't know if you can see how much thicker it is. It is quite a bit thicker. I needed it to be at least a couple of millimeters thick so that when I peeled it off, it didn't rip. And again, I didn't want it too thick because this is what I'm going to use to cover the backs of my plates and then the outside of my cups. So like I said, in hindsight, I really should have done something where I had just like a template, because then if I did something where I had a template, I could have cut out my pieces and laid it on top of the template, like glued it to it, and not had to worried about the edges meeting up. I've just cut it out after I had the skin actually attached to the template. You know, we all learn learn from our mistakes, I guess. So here I am, just really took my time getting not only a pattern that I liked, but I also kind of wanted to make sure I had the same colors throughout, because when this is dry, I'm going to choose spots that I think are prettiest to cover the outside of my dishes. And I wanted them to all look like one set. So while that dried, I went ahead and I sanded the edges to make these as smooth as possible. Like I said, I was really super careful. Another downfall of using the clay, because it had to be pretty thin because it's going to have that coating on the outside. The good news is that now that it has that acrylic coat and it's all completely done, they're pretty sturdy. I've dropped them and they've held up. So that does help to protect the clay inside. But it was just kind of, I was holding my breath to, hoping I didn't break anything off while I was trying to sand it. I went ahead and painted the food side a bright white. I want these to look like a nice fine china set. So I painted the tops of the plates. The inside of the cups were already white, but like I said, I did so many things trying to cover up the fact that my handle was at the lip of the cup that I messed up my hot glue on the inside, and I wound up having to paint the inside of the cups, and then I had to do something with the inside. So you'll see that at the end. I took a quarter strip width of cardstock, and I'm going to use this to cover that wire on the handle. One of the things I was doing, trying to make it look a little less obvious that it's a paper clip. So I cut off enough to curve just along the handle, and I'm going to do that for both of them. And I'm going to fold that piece in half so that it curves around the paper clip. Next, I'm going to put it actually on the paper clip, bend it around so it fits perfectly, and then where it sticks out, I'm going to give 2 little clips just so I can bend that in more easily. And these actually worked out pretty well. I was pretty happy with the end result. It wasn't exactly what I was looking for. I should have stuck to, the method of drilling it through, but you live and you learn. So I'm going to take my paintbrush in here, and I'm going to just kind of use that to take some of the hard edges off to make it look a little more rounded and kind of curve it in on itself on the inside before I attach the glue. Once the glue was on there, I took my paintbrush again just to kind of make sure that it looked like it was a flat edge in there instead of a real hard edge. And here I am finally removing that skin. I used an X-Acto knife to cut around the tile. It was pretty thick, so it did take a little bit of pressure. Gonna take that wax paper off, and then I just very, very carefully peeled it entirely off. So I laid everything out, and it cuts really easily. I just used scissors to cut it once I got it off of the tile and off of the wax paper. So you can see I laid everything out where I wanted it. And I just cut out squares pretty close to the size of the plates. And then I just used regular craft glue. Craft glue and school glue work on this because I use air dry clay instead of polymer. So you don't need to use a fancy glue if you're going to use air dry clay. If you use polymer, you will need a specialized glue. But it was just a matter of painting that, laying the skin over, it's super duper flexible, and then just smoothing it down, making sure it adheres really nicely. It was a pretty thick coat of paint, or not paint, sorry, pretty thick coat of glue, but it worked really, really well. And then here I am, you can see I'm having to work around this handle. I'm just kind of piecing together strips to go up and down through that handle. And it wound up working out okay. It's such a busy pattern. I was able to kind of match it up pretty decently. But I'm just using the same crafter's glue directly on my toothpaste cap, and then it sticks to the acrylic really well too. So these took a little more time, still not too difficult. That part is done. I wound up with a little extra, so I went ahead and I just put that over some foam board and cut some skinny sticks and made one extra painting. So hey, I got 2 paintings out of this project. So here you can see I'm just trimming around, and then I'm going to finish the edges with a little gold paint that helps to disguise the edge where the skin meets the clay. And then I went over onto the white just a little bit, just to make it look like a little nicer set of china. Just using my dotting brush here and some gold acrylic. Onto the cups, I did the same thing along the top edge of the cup, very, very carefully, covering the edge of not only the skin, but also the top rim of that toothpaste cap. And then I'm going to also paint the handles gold, just to make it all match and look more cohesive. And then I covered everything with a final coat of Mod Podge. You can see that I just printed off some tiny little paintings of nice cappuccinos and pasted those in the tops of the cups. I had messed up my glue so badly. It's time for tea. I hope you enjoyed following along on these projects with me. And don't forget, if you like my content, like, comment, share, and subscribe. See you next time.